Year of the Pig starts today, and coming with it is the big attempted nerf at goats. I can't wait to get my edgelord on in ranked personally, but we'll give you a quick recap of what to expect with the patch and then cover other things from the news in a big news roundup. First up, the armor changes go live. The Cliff Notes version of this, instances of damage that deal more than 6 will see a benefit from this. So for example, D.Va's pellets only do 2 damage each, so even with a headshot, you won't see any difference, whereas characters like Roadhog and Tracer are at that magic 6 number, where they'll do the same damage to armor to the body, but increase damage to the head. It gets kind of complicated. Every hero kind of interacts with this a bit differently. You want to be sure to check out our other videos explaining this in depth, so you're sure to adjust your playstyle accordingly for the heroes you play. Some of the biggest winners to look out for: Orisa, Sombra, Hammond with headshots especially. Aim for the head on armored targets and you're going to see an increase in DPS, unless you're playing like Winston, D.Va, characters whose damage is too low to reach the breakpoint where you're going to see a buff from this change. Brigitte's rally gets nerfed. The armor no longer persists, but rally lasts for 30 seconds. So in most cases, you won't see too much of a difference with this, because rally still speeds you up, allowing you to run at the enemy like a bamf, adding a lot of durability to the team during that fight. But look for this to significantly impact heroes like Zarya and Zenyatta, who used to really get a benefit of having that armor under shields. And with that being gone, we might see a hero like Tracer finally be playable again. Even a character like Reaper really sees playable use when there isn't armor on everything all the time. Next up is the nerf to D.Va, whose cooldown between uses of defense matrix doubled from 1 second to 2. What this means is you no longer can flicker defense matrix on or off really quickly, because if you pop it on to almost zone with it, there'll be a wide open gap for the enemy to sneak in big value ultimates and abilities and focus fire, even with just flanks coming in around the corner. So because of that, my biggest tip is realize that it's a lot harder to use this defensively, because waiting around to pop it on to sustain will open up a gap, right? Whereas if you're going aggressively, forcing the issue so the enemy has to use cooldowns like stuns and antis on your main tank, while you still can give them the cone of invulnerability with the defense matrix, and that still works as you're used to. It's more so in the quick responsiveness to be able to catch a grav or a tracer pulse bomb, things like that, where you're really going to notice this. So for set engagements, countering something like Bastion, there's still no better tank in the game, but D.Va's flexibility goes down quite a bit. And on to the last, most controversial change in the entire patch. Reaper is getting what I think is an incredible buff. A lot of naysaying with this, mostly from the pro community who knows how to outplay Reaper and pick the counters for him. But I want to ask you this question. You've played a lot of ranked. Does anybody ever pick the right team comp or counter pick or swap their hero ever? In my games, it feels like a pretty low percentage unless I'm the one counter picking. So because of that, I think Reaper's going to see a ton of value. If you know how to play him right, I can't wait to jump in and start playing him myself. The biggest thing that I think you'll be surprised with this is the amount of duels Reaper wins for free. What I mean is, because his lifesteal is so much higher, you need the exact right thing to kill him, or he will simply carry the entire fight. Yes, there's all manner of things that with team play or with the right counter, you can shut him down, but even a matchup like McCree does not look so favored for McCree in my opinion anymore. If you pounce him with Wraith Form active, you can dodge the stun, and then even at medium range, Reaper outpokes McCree because he can heal as much as McCree can shoot to the body. Remember that. That's an incredible amount. Reaper heals for 70 with a body shot, McCree deals 70 with a body shot. There's a lot of interactions like that where Reaper just wins if you're in the right position and they don't have the right answer. My biggest suggestions to make sure you counter Reaper is pick Lucio and Ana, and your backline really has to make some star plays in order to counter him. Having that sleep dart on the ready to either hit him or force Wraith out will be key to allow your DPS to actually do anything. Anti-nade onto him stops this massive lifesteal that he has. And of course, Lucio just booping him away constantly, saving the CC for that, basically shuts him down entirely. But I don't know if I always see this in ranked. I don't suggest you assume Brigitte is a counter to him because his damage is so severe up close, and you're used to Brigitte being able to out-brawl and self-sustain against anything. I don't think you will against Reaper anymore if he dodges your stun. With more playtime on the patch, we'll make more videos on on how to utilize and counter Reaper. I think this is a very big deal for ranked, even if it doesn't set the world on fire in Overwatch League. But even then, I think some teams will definitely even experiment with Reaper and try to get him to work, because I think the stats on this is insane, especially when you combine with Nano Boost and other things that you can put on him. He is a monster. Now onto the community news roundup portion of the video. There was an awesome clip floating around from Funny Astro. If you don't know who he is, former pro player gone streamer. He's got like 5 accounts in the top 10, one-tricking Lucio, really highlighting the amount of the game you can take over when you know how to play the character. But it was with this failed duel that a really cool mechanic got explained by the streamer that I wanted to pass on to you guys as well. In this duel, this enemy Reinhardt exploits a really cool bit of Reinhardt Tech, and it's kind of hard to see, but notice he does a full 360 in order to hit the Lucio with the backswing of the hammer. This is pretty genius, and it's what catches Funny Astro out, not knowing how to dodge when the hitbox is going to hit him. But also it has a really cool effect for the Rein player where normally your hammer CCs things away from you, but if you ever miss the first forward swing of the Rein hammer, you actually can wrap around with a 360 the lingering hitbox and hit the target in front of you with the backside of the swing, if that makes sense. So it's like a backhand with the Reinhammer, and because of that, the knockback actually pulls the target towards you. So whereas normally when you swing at a Lucio, they get soft CC'd a little bit away from you, but if you do this backswing technique, they'll actually get suctioned a bit closer towards you, making it easier for your follow-up swing to hit them. So it's some devastating tech. I'm sure it's going to be more commonplace with how strong this actually is to stop targets from getting away. Really cool stuff if you have the sensitivity to pull it off. Now, we're going to move on to talking about competitive news. A lot of stuff on the Overwatch League, but also a bit of a recap on Jane's Tournament of Future Champions, which instituted hero bans. First up, NYXL's been posting some content to their YouTube channel, and they had the team read mean tweets, and a couple of these just had me dying, and I had to share with you. If you remember, Jonahs, star player for NYXL, the best Zenyatta in the world by far. When the meta changed for the playoffs, he had to play characters like Tracer and Roadhog due to the really weird meta that was existing for that time, and he didn't play very well, something we highlighted at the time. But his response to this tweet kind of broke my heart. Take a listen.
I couldn't hear what Jonahs said at the end there. The only sounds I could understand was him choking in the playoffs against Fusion. I know.
Damn, Jonahs, man. If you're not sympathetic to that, I think you have no soul. What more could the man do for you in that season, you know? That's so heartbreaking, and I think he kind of knows as well. He was the carry for the team for the whole season. Then it comes to playoffs, the meta changes, his hero's kind of irrelevant. Man, that's heartbreaking. Good luck to them in the upcoming season. I'm so hyped for Overwatch League to be starting up again. Here's a tweet from Bare Hands, formerly worked for the NYXL, now is the assistant GM of Florida Mayhem, saying he met DeFran and the two are committed to a teabag battle. He says the arm race is on. Can't wait to see these high-level pros go at each other yet again. The Tier 2 Overwatch scene is nice, but Overwatch League always provided some seriously high-level gameplay. Just under a month away. But there's also been some recent drama surrounding one of the weaker teams in the league, the Florida Mayhem, who pulled what you might call the panic button right before the start of the season, firing their head coach, Ryder. He's out. They bring a new guy named Promise in, which you'd like to hope would work better for them, but this whole situation came to confirm some of the allegations against Ryder. Last season, Hitscan player Logix on his stream said that Ryder essentially refused to cooperate and coach because the team, quote, made too many mistakes. That's really rough when your coach gives up on you. It's kind of the opposite of the locker room attitude you want in any team environment. This release started to add stock to that, but further piling on, Swoosh, the old main tank for the Florida Mayhem, did not have nice things to say about him either, calling him lazy, arrogant, that he didn't care for the players, and the only thing he learned from Ryder is how to not coach. Whew. That's rough. Now, thankfully, with this overwhelming negativity coming his way, Ryder did step up to the plate and man up to these allegations, saying that he should have done better. Of course, when you're the Florida Mayhem and you're losing almost as much as the Shanghai Dragons, I'm sure it was a very stressful situation, but it seemed like that failure hurt his pride, making things worse for all parties involved. He also notes a communication gap with the players. He, of course, is Korean. Coaching a largely non-Korean team was another hurdle that he had to get over. So we hope that we can see some light at the end of the tunnel with these stories. For both parties involved, hopefully Ryder gets set on better ways in his future, learns from this stressful experience, and hopefully we see some better gameplay out of the Florida Mayhem, because they were, as I said, one step removed from being last place last year. So we'll see if this head coach transition gives them the jolt they need. Last story for the day. As you know, we advocate for hero bans in competitive or pro-level Overwatch. I think it's essential so that we never see the same comp over and over again in a given meta. And I hope you did get a chance to tune into Jane's Tournament of Future Champions, which showcased having hero bans active as the rule set, which finally gave us a serious competitive example to go off of to explain how this protect and single ban format affects the game. Whole lot of things people were saying about hero bans were now, I would say, demonstrably proven to be incorrect. People said that you would just have a multi-DPS meta, or only Brig and D.Va would get banned non-stop. None of that was true. In fact, as we got to the teams closer to the finals, the teams would protect Goat's comp, banning out counters to it like Pharah and Sombra. Turns out, no matter how much you think that there's unanimous agreement amongst the pros about what metas they do and don't like, they like winning. So if they can win with Goat's comp, you better believe that they're going to try to pick and ban accordingly. And in some cases, we saw two teams that wanted to play Goat's comp, giving us that mirror. But we also got to see all sorts of other cool things as well. I could go into very long depth of the implications of each ban and how it has ripple effects in the gameplay. Banning D.Va, banning Lucio, they drastically change how the game gets played, but I'll save that for when this format might be taken a bit more seriously and gains a bit momentum, because let's face it, none of us are going to play in this and very rarely get to see it at this point. So just wanted to say I think this was a big success and gave us the gameplay we were hoping to see. Variance, because it never was about trying to ban out Goat's comp so it was unplayable or unpickable or to force multi-DPS or anything like that. It's instead a safeguard to stop stale metas from happening. Many of us don't want to see Goat's mirrors non-stop, but also a lot of people complained when the Overwatch League was Widowmaker dominated or Tracer dominated. I'm sure the Houston Outlaws would love the chance to try to ban out Tracer, or if you have the weaker Widow in the matchup, you can move the gameplay away from Widow and be able to play other styles. All in all, it never was about banning one comp that the community doesn't like. It's about seeing all comps be relevant. Now, there is some downsides to that, which I think was well said by Harsha, who now works for the Vancouver Titans as a coach, and pointed out that the team's inexperience with the format on what good banning strategy is clearly wasn't up to snuff. And once it's figured out a bit more, we'll have more interesting games. I definitely agree with Harsha's assessment here. The Tournament of Future Champions gameplay wasn't masterful of the format by any means, but it also was the first time we've seen it. And I think it's a bit of a shock to the system to realize how much more of the game you have to understand to be able to deal with a constantly changing ecosystem of metas, with a different ban potentially forcing you to rethink your strategy from map to map. But that's the goal. Hero bans makes the game way harder, forces you to play more heroes. That's the entire point, but also why you'd expect it to make a bit of sense where, as teams got farther in the tournament, if they're Goats teams, they don't want to play that random game of learning a new meta on the fly, right? It's a lot easier to compress that into something you understand, like Goats, but as you would think, over time, teams would be more comfortable in making these more complex pushes towards different comps to throw their enemy off guard. So food for thought. I know a lot of people think that if Overwatch just balanced the game perfectly, we would see hero diversity, but that's actually impossible. I think we'll talk about that more in some upcoming interviews that I have planned, so you're going to want to make sure to keep on a lookout for that. That's going to be everything for today's news roundup, though. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you can catch our upcoming videos. And to be sure you don't miss them, hit the bell icon so that you get notified when they come out. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO. For your Overwatch, I'll see you guys next time.